Welcome to Fantasy Ambush. I am your host, Trevor Blanchard, and with me is my co-host, Paul. Go ahead and tell the people hi, Paul.
Hello,
How's it going, buddy?
it's going good.
You ready for some football, man?
I, I've been every day, every day. I've
Every
been,
day, every day, right? I
yeah.
mean, preseason just kind of gets the juices flowing, and then
Oh yeah.
and then like we're kind of in that time where like drafts are about to happen for fantasy football. There's people asking if they know anybody who has a spot open, and Um, I get approached fairly regularly to join people's leagues. It happens enough to where I'm like, all right, I might be in too many leagues now. I might need to slow down a little bit, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, but we're gonna get into it. We'll do some introductions from me and Paul, so y'all can kind of get to know us if you haven't already. I had Fantasy Ambush last year with my other co-host, Hunter. Unfortunately, we both became very busy, and the podcast just kind of tapered away until we just didn't do it anymore because we didn't have the time. With Hunter's blessing, because I did start this podcast with him. He said it was perfectly fine to get a new co-host, and every once in a while he'll pop on as a guest and talk some fantasy football with us. Paul was surprisingly the one who approached me about doing a podcast. I was like, hey, I have one that I want to start back up, so
It
like this is
works out.
perfect. It works out very well, right? So Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself. um
All right. Um, I'm Paul. I assume that most of the people watching this would already know who I am, but
yeah, or listening,
yeah,
so
yeah, or listening that too.
yeah.
I follow the San Francisco 49ers and the Miami Dolphins deeply, but I mean, I can talk to anybody about their team because I follow fantasy football so much. So, I know starters on basically all sides of the ball. I love football. I think I'm just now starting to hit my stride in fantasy football. It took me a long time to get out of the I'm picking players on my own team thing.
Hmm.
It
Yep.
was hard to get over that. I've done pretty well. Like I don't think I've ever won a championship, but I'm usually always in the postseason of it.
Hmm.
Every year. So it's fun. I do it for the fun of it. Like I've never done like actual like a league for money or anything like that. But it's just a thing that like basically I do with my friends to have fun and to have some uh bragging rights. And also it was something that like almost in the terms of like, okay, I love football so much, I need a way to capitalize. Like, it's like I have all this knowledge in my mind, so fantasy football is a special thing that I can like use all that knowledge on, at
Hmm.
times.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's about it.
that's awesome, man. Yeah, I'm Trevor Blanchard. I'm sure you've heard me talking before, whether it was Ambush before this, or I have another podcast, Pixie's Playground, where I have done sports stuff on there too. But I'm trying to make this the main football focused thing. So very excited about that. I've been doing fantasy football for what, 8 years now? Not quite a decade, but I mean it's going on a decade. I've won some championships. I've won money and championships. I actually won my most important league to me last year. Um, the first time I won that league ever. Been in it for 7 or 8 years. That's the league that got me started, right? And the league's filled with a bunch of savages, and I would do terribly for a long time. And then uh, last year, I got into the playoffs as the sixth seed and pulled off a championship win. So love it, right? Come from behind victory, gotta love it. Other than that, I've won one or two other money leagues. I've won a good chunk of money on DraftKings. Daily fantasies kind of, I love doing that too, but I like regular fantasy football also. So a little bit of both. Um, Kind of like you. I know players on both sides of the ball. I'm more offensively minded simply because of fantasy football and because I don't really do defense leagues or IDPs normally. And it's just so much to keep up with.
Yeah.
Players, abilities. It's a lot of information. Anyone who's been around football knows that. So, I know a lot of names, and I can give you the relative strengths and weaknesses of defenses and offenses. If you ask me all the players' names, I probably couldn't tell you. I'm already bad with names though, so like I know the names, but I won't remember the names in the
Yeah.
moment. That happens a lot. Um, but yeah, love football. I mean, I played football. I played 6 years of football between middle school and high school. Watched college, watched NFL, fell in love with it. I was always a Saints fan since I was 5 years old.
Mhm.
But I didn't really become a true student of the game until I was in high school. That's kind of when I started playing, I started understanding things. I started getting really into it. And that's when I started just learning and going to that next level of knowledge of the sport.
Yeah.
And nothing against people who don't have that knowledge. It's fine. Look,
Yeah.
some people, it's like I said, it's a lot of stuff to take in. So,
Mhm.
you got to be passionate about it. You got to love it, and I love it.
Yeah.
So here we are. Um, so let's go ahead and that's our introductions. Let's go ahead and we'll dig into our teams. I figured we'd start with that. I'm a Saints fan. You're a 49ers fan. Anyone who knows us pretty much knows those things.
Yeah.
But go ahead, give the rundown of how you feeling about the 49ers. How you think they're going to do this year, maybe a record,
Okay.
strengths, weaknesses, stuff like that.
Okay. So yeah, so I've been a Niners fan since I was about 12. Like I said, like I'd say I've almost been a Niners fan since I was like 5 because it runs in the family. But it's I don't like you were saying. I didn't really run into. I didn't really hit being a football fan until I was like 13, 14 when I could study and I could watch a whole game. Um, but so the Niners, I mean, I think that from a talent roster on paper output, I think it's not crazy to say we might have the best roster and depth, from offense, defense, special teams, or at least up there, the top three.
Mhm.
Um, I'm happy that we got Debo paid. It's funny. It's
That was a
something.
huge deal. That was a huge deal.
Yeah, it's funny. It was something that I was never that concerned about because I was more thinking that this is the way younger players kind of get the ball rolling these days. Social media. But then when the whole he's asked for a trade thing came out, it got a bit weird. Like, hey, like he doesn't seem angry, but he doesn't seem happy. So, everybody, I mean, trust me, on 49ers Twitter, it was like the end of the world. And
Mhm.
it got so bad that like fans were starting to give him like a death threats and stuff.
Yeah.
And like,
They were cranking up their lighters to burn his jersey,
yeah.
right?
but yeah, but me, I was like, let's see what happens, especially after the draft when he didn't get traded. I was like, okay, everything's fine now. Like, let's slow it
Yeah,
down.
I think he just wanted to get paid for what he was doing,
Mhm.
which you know I think he said it just fine. He was being a running back and a wide receiver,
Yeah,
and he's like, "Look, if this is what I'm doing, I want to get paid, and I want to get paid well." So, go ahead, continue.
yeah. Um, so basically, so much stuff has happened in this offseason. Like I have to kind of like put it on a list in my mind. Like first things first, the Niners are super player friendly. Like they're known for taking care of their players, but they are a strict system. They don't pay players until you know July, August. Like that's just what they did. They did it with George Kittle. They did it with Fred Warner, and now it was like they have a way that they
Yeah,
run things. And so that was the most alarming thing was the way like the Niners don't have these like big issues with players a lot. So that was the scariest thing is like it's usually not a public fight between a player and the front office. And so I think it was very smart for the front office or the whole foundation of the Niners to not say anything. There was never any back and forth. There was never like that. It was just let him talk his talk.
Yeah.
And also it was weird because it wasn't even Debo most of the time. It was like his agent or his friend or like a family member, you know. So that's why it was very kind of crazy. But
Yeah.
that's all taken care of. And then of course now we're going from Garoppolo to Lance, and
Yeah.
I would like to give Garoppolo his flowers because he most don't. You know, I feel like he was very important in making us a household name again. Like before we, you know, traded for him, we were 1-10. It had been a mess since we fired Harbaugh. We had our defensive line coach Tom Sula was the head coach. Chip Kelly was our head coach.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it,
Yeah. Some rough
it was
days for sure.
bad. Yeah, it was bad.
So
So um, so I was excited when we got Lynch because I thought that okay, at least he's like a man's man, like a straightforward shooter who can like talk to other people in the league, you know, and can like I mean I didn't know how good he would be at like scouting players because he was always in you know Fox, so he watches the game every week. You know, like he's something about that. So just from uh, I just want to give Garoppolo his respect, but I mean I'm so excited about Lance because of just what he brings. Now it's defenses will have to play us 11 on 11 ball. They can't just you know double anybody anymore. Like there's always going to be a person who can account for Lance,
yeah.
and he has a big arm, of course. That's something that we didn't have with Garoppolo. But also, I'm not delusional. Where he does have some flaws in where Garoppolo excelled. The little pass to the halfback, the you know slants. That's where Lance kind of you know he likes to throw the ball 1,000 still about even played any football. You know, it's his senior year was canceled because of COVID. Then he sat for most of last year. But it's wild watching Lance because it's almost like play by play. You see him getting better and better. Like in
Yeah.
Houston, he got better and better. Like every play, it seemed like the first quarter bad, second quarter like okay, starting fourth, he started to light Houston up, and I know most people say, "Oh, it's Houston," but the week before they had shut down Herbert, and you know I almost call them the San Diego Chargers, the Los Angeles
Yeah.
Chargers. Um, so I was impressed by that. And so basically on the outlook of things, I actually am not as confident about them making the playoffs only because of the schedule. It is hell. like we play the NFC West, of course, and then we play the AFC West. So it is
Two
brutal.
very tough
There's not,
divisions. Yep.
yeah, there's not many easy wins, but also there's I mean, I don't know if it's biased in any way, but I'm not I don't feel like any game is not winnable. You know, like
Yeah.
every in the AFC West is good, but I feel like the Niners are on par with them, and it's good that the Rams have to have the same schedule as us. So 9-10 wins could win the West because you know every schedule in the NFC West is so tough.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, basically, and then also I'll just give a rundown on the Dolphins. I am a big fan of the Dolphins. They're almost like the almost like the little brother that I have to protect from getting, you know, beat up. Like, you
Uh-huh.
know, it's I started being a Dolphins fan. It was weird because I remember I was a young kid and I watched Ace Ventura, and Dan Marino was in that movie, and I was like, "Who's this guy?" And then I started learning about him. I'm like, "Oh wow, you know, that's awesome." Um, and so basically, that's how it went down. I've been a Dolphins fan for a while. I'm excited about Tua. I defend him hard, um, only because I don't know if he's gonna be good or not. But the fans these days do not give these dudes, these young quarterbacks, any patience these days. It's like if you're not great out the gun, they think everybody has to be Herbert or Burrow. Like sometimes these young quarterbacks need some time. That's and the O line that Tua has had to play behind has been terrible.
Pretty
So
garbage.
now, of
Pretty
course, they
garbage for
got
sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's all about strengths. Like okay, well, some other quarterbacks can play behind it. Well, sometimes a quarterback strength needs certain strengths on team. Like Tua can be effective if he has time. He's
Yeah.
not, he can scramble a bit, but he's left-handed, so he faces the opposite way. So he needs that protection.
Yep.
So obviously, Tyreek Hill, Waddle. Obviously, being a Niners fan, I'm excited about Mostert being on the Dolphins.
Hmm.
Being able to see what he can do over there. They should be electric. Obviously, they just hired the old Niners offensive coordinator, kind of coming. Shanahan's the OC, but
Yeah.
he definitely helped with like a bunch of stuff. So yeah. So in short, I think that the AFC East is a bit more of an easier path. Like Buffalo, of course, is elite. I'm low this year on the Patriots. I think they might take a step back. So and the Jets are the Jets. And yeah, so I it's hard being a Dolphins fan because I have so much pride in them because obviously they're the only undefeated team. But I know most people look at them as kind of like almost like a bottom feeder franchise because that's kind of what they've been at times. But they have such an awesome history that I hold them as like a in a special place. But yeah, let's talk about the Saints.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, I respect the 49ers, even if I don't necessarily like them. But I mean, we used to be divisional rivals and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
And we've had some tough games during the Drew Brees years and everything else like that. So, there's a lot of back and forth there, but probably one of the best defenses in the league as far as I'm concerned. I definitely say that. Trey Lance is kind of the question mark, and I think he'll do fine. I'm not saying he's going to be bad or anything like that.
Yeah.
I just think, like you said, it's going to be a process. He's not going to be consistently great, but I think he has it in him to be eventually. So that's kind of what we're hoping for. The run game, look, I love Elijah Mitchell. You know where Elijah Mitchell came from?
The South.
He
I know that.
he
Yeah.
he was a running back for the University of Lafayette, Louisiana, which is my
Okay.
my wife's alma mater. So
All right.
so I was rooting for him from the get go. So when he started playing and doing great, I was like, yeah, this is awesome. Because
Mm-hmm.
it's a smaller town college. They play in the Sun Belt, I
Mm-hmm.
believe. So
Okay.
for him to get drafted and end up playing and end up being good, makes people excited.
Yeah.
I worry about his health. Uh, he got hurt a lot last year. I hope he
Yeah.
doesn't get hurt this year. If he does, I don't even know who his backup is. To be honest with you, I don't have faith in Trey Sermon. I don't have faith in whoever the other one is.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. But everything else, it's a solid team. Offensively, you still have Ayuk, you still have Debo, you still have Kittle. Like, I mean, there's plenty to work with there. So Trey Lance
Mm-hmm.
should do fine. The Dolphins, I kind of like them. I don't think their defense is going to be where it needs to be. Offensively, I think they're going to run a fast-paced offense. You're going to go out and you're going to get Tyreek. You're going to try to burn those deep passes as fast as you can. You're going to try to, get to it to release that ball quickly. Even if the O-line is better, he's still probably not going to have the amount of time he always needs. So, I think you're going to be looking for taking advantage of matchups, and open up the field. I heard rumors that Mike Gesicki might be blocking a lot more this year, so they're going to be trying to get him more. But I do think Tyreek's going to be good. I do think Waddle will still be really good. I think these are things. Tyreek's going to take some defensive pressure, and I think Waddle, that's going to serve him well. As far as the run game, we'll see what happens, man. I don't even know how that running back field's going to pan out. There's more than one at least solid running back on their roster. So who's going to get the job? It's probably going to be a committee. We'll see what happens, but I think they'll be okay if they can just have a better record than they had last year. Then they're moving forward, which is nice. As far as the Saints, well, I think they'll have a top 5 defense this year. It was really upsetting to see Williams let go, but it was kind of necessary as far as Cap's concerned and being able to fill that position in. He's really good at safety, really good at safety. So it would suck to see him go, but we did get Honey Badger. I'm happy with that. I think he's going to fit our scheme fine. Our defense is good. Our defense has depth. I know we have Lattimore, but I do want to point the finger at Adebo. He's been having a really good offseason. I think he'll be a great, number 2 CB at least. He can't quite cover like Lattimore can, but I think he'll be a great complement and great for the defense that we run. So I think the Saints defense will be top 5. I don't think that's a stretch. They were top 5 last year. You know what I'm saying?
They,
Offense, good.
I loved watching them embarrass Tom
Oh yes,
Brady last year.
yes,
So I love
yes.
that.
6 regular season games in a row. They're 6-0 versus Tom
I
Brady.
love it.
All the sacks and all the good coverage. I hope we do it again this year.
Mhm.
Offensively, look, if our guys could just stay healthy, um, I can see the Saints get 10 wins. I think 10 wins is reasonable.
Mhm.
I think their ceiling is higher than that. I do honestly believe that if the offense gets going with the weapons we have, um, I could easily see the Saints in the playoffs, right? We went
Yeah.
and we got Olave. We drafted him. We went drafted another lineman. We had to let Armstead go, unfortunately. But the guy we got, I can't even remember his name right now.
Oh yeah. All I know about him is he's been getting in fights.
Yes,
Like
he's
I
an
like that.
aggressive guy. So me
I like
me
that.
yeah, me and my buddy Hunter talked about it. Hunter's like, teams love aggressive guys like him because they would prefer to tell a player to throttle it back than
Mhm.
have to try to teach them to get aggressive, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to just throttle that back and teach them, hey, harness this in different ways.
Yeah.
Whereas if they're not aggressive enough, it's hard to teach that. It's hard to get them to do that. So
Especially at that spot. Like if it was a receiver who was fighting, that's bad. But
yeah.
an offensive lineman has to have a certain
Oh,
type of
that's the trenches, man. That's the
yeah,
trenches. You got to be able to fight.
yeah,
So, not literally fight, but it's
yeah.
a war in the trenches. It really is. But he's been doing good. I think he's gonna be great long term. He just needs to keep a level head and not lose us, too many yards because of penalties. Um, but we have Olave. We got a good lineman to replace Armstead. I do think Winston can be good for us. I'm not saying he's a lead
Uh,
or anything like that, but like I could see a world where Winston gets 30 passing touchdowns and 4,000 yards at least.
so luckily, you're talking to somebody who might be the highest on him out of anybody. I think that he could win MVP this year. Like
It's possible, man. Look, last year
with
before he got
all the
hurt,
weapons,
yeah, last year before he got hurt,
he was on fire.
he had like 16 touchdowns and 3 interceptions in 7 games. Like he was on
Yeah.
pace to have 5,000 yards. He was on pace
A
to have
big
35
year.
touchdowns. He was
Yeah.
on pace to have like maybe 9 interceptions. So it's like
Hmm.
before he got hurt, he was doing good things. And I think with Olave, we picked up Jarvis Landry, who he's going to be great for us. Michael Thomas, they're saying, is looking like the Michael Thomas of old, right?
I've,
Hopefully that stays
I've
open.
heard that. Yeah. Yeah.
I saw some videos and he's doing Michael Thomas things, which is he's not going to be fast,
Yeah.
but he's going to burn you on route running,
And yeah.
and his
Yeah.
hands are still good. Like he still looks like Michael Thomas. So you have those three wide receivers. Then Alvin Kamara come back, who was also on a really good pace last year until he got hurt. Like he was on
Hmm.
a statistical pace last year that would have been like a career high for him if he wouldn't have gotten hurt.
Yeah.
He's probably not
And
going to get suspended this year. So
uh,
um,
that's what
good.
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
It don't matter on people's issues. All we know for a fact is that he's likely not going to get suspended. So that's a big thing because it's funny. I'm a huge running back guy, and I cannot name who the Saints backup running back. I have no
Oh,
idea.
so right now it's Mark Ingram, actually.
Oh, okay.
So Mark Ingram's still on the
Honestly,
team at 32
I
years
didn't even
old.
know he was still in the league.
Yep,
That's crazy.
yep. He's
Okay,
still
so that's not bad though. That's
no,
that's
he can get 4 yards a carry.
mhm,
He is a veteran running back. He knows what to do.
yeah.
And we'll see as far as backups. I think we have Dwayne Washington, used to be a Lions running back. He's kind of our kick returner, but they have him as the RB3.
Okay.
But we'll see how that goes. I don't think he'll see much playing time. But you put all those
Let's
things
say
together. But
I'm his name is Dennis Allen, the head coach,
yes,
right?
Dennis Allen. He
Because so
was
yeah,
good.
I'm a big fan of him actually because when he was with the Oakland Raiders, what 10, 13 years ago, I thought that that's when the Raiders were a dumpster fire. I mean, they've been one for a while, but we're a bad dumpster fire then. And he did like really good, and he was super young. He was like 31 or something like that
Yeah,
when he was the head coach of the Raiders. Yeah, and I thought his defensive mind was super good, and like I've liked
yeah.
him. And then now that he's spent, I mean, it's been like I think it's been under the Saints for 3, 4 years now, at least.
Yeah.
So I think he learned a lot from Sean
So
Payton.
yeah, I think it's been what 5 or 6 years with the Saints,
Okay,
but in the
5 or 6.
last 4 years, the Saints have had a top five defense pretty much every
Yes,
year.
yeah.
So I mean,
Like,
that just goes to show you how good that Dennis Allen is, at least as a defensive
yeah.
coach.
I think people are writing off the Saints a lot because Sean Payton's gone, and
Yeah,
I don't see it like I understand that Sean Payton was special, but I mean I just think that they did it the right way where they had somebody that's been
yeah,
there for a while and then just yeah
yeah. And the offensive system is still Sean Payton's offensive system.
yeah
They're still using the same plays. It'll be the person calling it. Some of the offensive coaches are still there that was under Sean Payton. Um, so like, yeah, it's gonna suck to see him go. Because he's definitely. I mean, he's a great offensive minded coach. There's no question about that at all. Um, but here's hoping. I know Dennis Allen's gonna keep our defense sparky. So
yeah.
I'm hoping the rest of the team stuff that he has to do falls in line with what he's done with our defense, and we'll see. Like I said, I don't, like I said, I could see a world where Winston does get MVP. I could also see a world where the Saints don't really need Winston to be MVP because our defense is good, our run game is
Yeah.
working, and we pass just enough
Mhm.
to keep defenses guessing. You know,
Yeah.
and when you have a top five defense, you can do that. That's
Mhm.
kind of how it is. So we'll see. I know this summer we were looking at like DraftKings and Caesar sports betting and stuff like that. And the Las Vegas books had the Saints at -7.5 wins.
I'll take that over.
And
Yeah.
and so like me and two of my other buddies, Hunter was one of them. We all put 100 down on them beating that
Mm.
back in the day because I was
Yeah.
like, oh, like I could give them
That's easy
9
money.
wins. Now they have
Yeah.
a tough schedule. Like I'm not gonna say they don't
Yeah.
have a tough schedule, because I mean we play the AFC North,
Mm.
which I mean that's gonna be a rough.
Fun. Yeah.
some rough games there. Ravens, Steelers. You know what I'm saying? Like there's gonna be some tough teams. We have some tough stretches in about the middle of the season, but I think the Saints could win pretty much most of those games. So
It's funny. I was thinking this is the first year in a while that the San Francisco and the Saints don't face off. Like
yeah,
it
you're
seems like
right.
almost every year
Yep, yep,
it happens. And it's funny because like the Saints, like being a Niners fan, the Saints are always kind of seems to be a part of the season. Like for example, like last year, if the Saints would have won that last game, the Niners wouldn't have even made it to the playoffs, and they wouldn't have even made it. And kind of like
yeah,
around because we're watching that, and the Saints were up by like 2 touchdowns. I was like, oh well, I guess it don't matter now, you know. And then I honestly, um, but you some good points that I was thinking about. So number one, I think you're definitely right on the Lance thing. It seems that there's extremes. He's a bust or he's MVP. Let's go. Let's try to face in somewhere between. Where first off, the Niners are a run first team. Like nothing is gonna change. They might even run the ball more with Lance than they did with Garoppolo. But so I wanted to say there's some exciting things going on that has been kind of kept as a secret, but some people have been recording on their phones. The Niners are actually going to have a option package
hmm
where they're doing Lance, Mitchell, and Debo in the all in the backfield.
yeah, yeah,
And so yeah, so they're definitely playing with some. I mean, Shanahan is already like always with his play calling, but since he hasn't had like a guy that can pass the ball and run the ball. I mean, we've had Garoppolo, Mullins, Better, and then he had Matt Ryan. So he has some nice throwing quarterbacks, some nice running quarterback with RB3, but like Lance is so special that I don't know if he does either great. Like he's not Lamar Jackson, what runs the ball, but he's definitely like a Cam Newton type, where he's
yeah,
like a power guy.
yeah,
So that's super exciting. But like I said, like I think all I say is as long as he's better than Garoppolo, which isn't a high bar, I'm happy. Like
yeah,
I don't. He doesn't have to be the MVP, but again, I understand the fact that we traded 3 first round picks. There's a bunch of like fans who are like, he better be Patrick Mahomes, and I think that he might have the ability to do there eventually, but also then to segue a bit into our fantasy part by your saying all the backs. So Mitchell is hurt
yeah,
now. Uh, he hurt his hamstring, so I'm very excited about Jeff Wilson Jr. In 2020. He led the team in rushing yards and he led the team in touchdowns. He hit 10 touchdowns, so he can run the ball, he can catch the ball. He's special, and so he's like kind of like okay, if Mitchell, like it's definitely Mitchell's job, but if it doesn't work out, then okay, at least we got him as a background. And then Sermon is going to get cut. And what sucks is he is actually super talented, but he does not know how to hit the whole, like he has the body of, let's say, Frank Gore and the mind of Barry Sanders. Like he likes to bounce around, bro. Like you're not fast. Like if he actually hit the hole, I think he'd be successful. But he's
yeah.
big, strong, like powerful, but he just kind of shakes. So then we drafted. This is a big name. I think it's Terrion Davis Price. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
that is Davis
and from
Price. There you go.
from LSU, and I like him a lot because he is just violent, and it's a bit of a change because we hired Anthony Lynn as our new running back coach, and
Yeah.
so he's bringing in a inside zone, and with Kyle Shanahan, we run an outside zone. So we're going to switch up a bit and do both, and
Yeah.
so that's where TDP comes in. So that's great. And then we got this. I mean, the Niners, one of their best traits is they find these undrafted guys out of nowhere, like Elijah Mitchell was up. This guy named uh, Jordan Mason, yeah, from Georgia Tech,
Okay.
and he ran the triple option. So, but he played the fullback version of that, so he didn't get that many carries. But so far, he's been one of the stars of our camp because he can catch the ball. He's violent. So yeah, I honestly think that we might average 30 rushes a game,
Yeah.
and
Uh, why not though?
yeah,
If
yeah,
you have a defense that can sustain, stopping the other team's offense, like run the
mm,
ball, pound it,
yeah,
and then pass
yeah,
when you have to.
yeah, and
Um,
especially with Lance, he can
yeah, and
scramble
you
a few
have,
times.
and that's what I'm saying. I mean, Lance is a quarterback that can get you 600 rushing yards a season,
Yeah,
or more. It's he
mhm,
ran in college, so it's not,
yeah.
you know,
But
um,
one thing I love is he keeps his eyes downfield. Like he's not like when he scrambles, he runs up. He doesn't run around,
yeah,
and go backwards. He likes to he has his eyes down the field and he's looking around
yeah,
and he's stepping up and then something that he does smart is he'll set his feet like he's about to throw and then he'll take off. So that
yeah.
makes the
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 defenses
whole
look,
defense
yeah,
freeze.
they'll
Yeah,
stagger a little
yeah.
bit.
And so like that's the thing that I if anybody talks to me about Lance, what I want to sell is forget his physical. Like his mind is beyond
Well,
what I think most people think.
he's already doing things that I like to hear about. So one of the things I loved about Drew Brees, look, accurate, considered by many to be one of the most accurate quarterbacks when he was in his prime. Um,
Mm,
but his pocket awareness was next level. Drew Brees
yeah,
would step up in that pocket when he had pressure coming and then just release that ball and just on a dime, right? So
yeah,
I say that because when I hear Trey Lance, like you said, I find that rushing quarterbacks they tend to half second glitch because
hmm
they want to take off with the ball, but it's been ingrained in them to hey try to throw it, try to pass it, so they kind of get stuck. And then, like you said, sometimes you don't need to run this way, that way, left, right, whatever. Just take a step up, let your O line do the work,
hmm
and they're going to give you that extra second and toss the ball. Now, if you're Joe Burrow, you might not get that, you know.
yeah,
But I'm saying that the 49ers have a good offensive line, so it's not
yeah,
I if Trey Lance needs to trust his line, he needs to step up in the pocket, or if he's gonna run, that's fine. Like you said, make it to where it's not necessarily noticeable. So I like hearing that because, like you said, that shows a certain awareness that some rushing quarterbacks don't have,
yeah,
or it
yeah,
has to be taught to them, and that takes longer, and it also still have that quite delay. Um, and if he's looking downfield, all the better. Go through your progressions,
yeah,
like
yep,
constantly be aware of the whole field. It's hard. Like I can't do it. I'm not a quarterback. Um, but hopefully he gets it. And like I said, give him time. Joe Burrow
yeah.
wasn't amazing his first half of the year. It took Josh Allen till his third year to really break out
He
passing
was
wise.
first year. Yeah, yeah,
We all knew he had the arm strength and he had the deep ball. He just had to get the speed down, and not his actual physical speed, just the mental speed of the game. It takes time
hmm
to learn that, and what's good is he has been practicing against one of the best defenses in the league.
yeah,
So you would hear camp where they would talk about, oh, he threw 4 picks today or whatever. It's like, yeah, but he's throwing against the best like one of the best, like the top 5 defenses in the league. Like
yeah,
he is literally trying out different things that he might not normally do in a game, but he's trying them out now to see, to get his distance, his bearing with his wide receivers. There's a bunch of stuff that goes into it,
yeah.
obviously. And yeah,
Uh,
not every day is going to be perfect because he's trying different things. He's trying to get on the same page with everybody.
I would say most of the 49er fans would hug you after saying that because it's like every time we watch like the national media, like he's throwing under. The big thing is his completion percentage. Like he's only completing 50%, but it's like so. First of all, the secondary is so good, the D line is so good, and then they are practicing high level, low completion throws. Like it's
Yeah.
not like they're doing dump offs. They're doing outs and stuff.
Yeah.
And so and also he didn't have Debo like the first week of camp. It's like what we saw in that preseason game meant more to me than anything we saw in camp. And also, I'm very excited that starting tomorrow we're having the practices against the Vikings.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. You
yeah,
joint
and
practices.
I think yeah, I think that'll say a lot. That say is so far the absolute all star of our camp has been Ayuk,
Yeah.
and I've been confident in saying this, and I've looked like a fool every year, but I believe that Ayuk is better than Ebo Samuel in terms of being a receiver, like the skill that of being a receiver.
Yeah.
And I feel like Garoppolo held him back so bad. Like for example, the Dallas game in the playoffs, Ayuk was making Diggs look like a fool. Like Ayuk's uh, route running, like his feet are so good that he makes most CBs look foolish, and he'd be open on the field. But Garoppolo just ever since he overthrew Sanders in Super Bowl in 19, he like would get PTSD about throwing a D. Like he
Yeah.
just would
Yeah.
not do it. And
Yeah.
so
And you need somebody
that's a
who's
big
willing to
thing.
commit to the deep ball,
Yeah.
right?
And so that's why,
Like,
you know, people laugh at me. Actually, today there's a post in the group about who would you pick, the Niners or the Eagles top three guys, like Ayuk, Debo, Kittle, or Smith, Brown, and Goddard.
Goddard.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm explaining to people like, listen, like I know what you guys think of Ayuk because I don't expect the average fan to see what I see. Like I watch every game of the Niners, so it's
Yeah.
hard to know. But I'm like, Ayuk is consistently open. Like
Well,
he's a special talent, but with Garoppolo, it never happened. But so far, so Lance worked with Ayuk all in the off season, and then he's worked in the camp, and he's just like Ayuk is special because he doesn't need to be open to catch the ball. He's got
yeah.
super long arms, so that's why I'm a big fan. Also, he's from my hometown, so it could be that I'm biased. It's possible.
Well, no. I mean, look, Ayuk had a good season before last year, though.
Yeah.
It's not
Mm-hmm.
like we haven't seen him do it because we have seen him do it. But whatever feud between him and y'all head coach, I don't know what the hell went
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Maybe
Nobody
Ayuk
knows still.
didn't have the grit that he needed, and now he has it. I don't know. We don't know, like you said.
So
But
yeah. So
go ahead.
okay. So I'll just let you know what has been talked about. Basically, what happened was his rookie year was the COVID year when there was
Oh yeah,
no camp, and he had a hell of a year. And then he came in, and maybe his ego was a bit too high
uh-huh.
because that's the funny thing is every season Kyle as like, oh, he's cool, he wears new shoes, he listens to rap, but he's an old school like type of coach. Like
Hmm.
he wants you to practice, and if you're not putting an effort, like you're gonna get in the doghouse.
Yeah, yeah. And once you
So
get in that
yeah,
doghouse, good luck.
yeah. So and but people attack Kyle, but like you should have your best players on the field. Yes, but Kyle is doing it as a I'm gonna get I'll sacrifice a few games because I'm gonna get the best out of him,
Yeah.
in the
Hmm.
future. And so it's crazy. Ayuk like barely played the first 6 games, but he still finished with 900 yards
Yeah.
receiving. So
Yeah.
so he still did,
Yeah.
did, did great.
Yeah, I like him. I mean, I like
Mm-hmm.
Ayuk. It sucked that it didn't pan out last year, but I think
Yeah,
moving forward, I think he'll be fine. I think he'll be
yeah,
fine. I think I could see Ayuk being like a wide receiver 2 in fantasy. I could definitely see that. Definitely a flex
Yeah,
option. I think most people are going to
definitely.
draft him as a flex. Uh, Debo's going what, end of the first round, maybe beginning
Yeah,
of the second round. I don't think I've seen him in the second
yeah.
round, to be honest with you. So, because Debo's kind of up there
So
after his performance last year.
what I would like to hear, since you're pretty successful, like what are your like definite philosophies in drafting? Like for example, I do not take a quarterback until maybe the round 5 or 6
Yeah, so
for me.
it depends on what quarterback it is and whether or
Mhm.
not they fall. Okay, so my general rule of thumb is what most of the consensus agrees with, which is, look, I can draft a quarterback in the eighth or ninth round. You can get Dak Prescott in the eighth round. You can
Yeah,
get Tom Brady in the eighth, ninth round. You can get Aaron Rodgers. That's where these guys are going. And look, I'm confident Tom Brady will be a top 12 quarterback if he plays 17 games. I'm
yep,
confident Dak Prescott will be a top 12 quarterback if he plays 7 games. So like the problem is they could also end up being the ninth quarterback or the 10th
yeah.
quarterback,
Picked it.
right?
Yeah, early.
So like yeah, you're in the top 12, but when you're playing against other people that have a top 5 quarterback, it makes a difference, man. That could be the
Hmm.
difference between winning and losing that week. It could be
Hmm.
4 points, but you lose by 2 points, and now you feel like, well, damn, why,
Yeah,
what happened? Um,
yeah,
so mostly I don't really pursue the higher end quarterbacks because they're just too costly. I'm not buying Josh Allen in the second round. And look,
no,
he was
it's
the
not
number
worth it.
one fantasy quarterback 2 years in a row.
Hmm.
So I mean, look, you can't argue it. He's really good,
Yeah,
and the rushing really brings his value up. The rushing
yeah,
brings his value up a lot. But I'm not paying a second round for him. Why? Because of position scarcity. I can go on waivers and get a quarterback that might put up as many points as Josh Allen this week.
yeah.
Not saying it's very likely, but I'm saying I could probably do it.
It's definitely yeah.
It's not as easy to find a good running back
Hmm.
or a top tier wide receiver. So if I've been doing mocks. I do mocks all the time. All right, this is fantasy football season. I'm doing mocks. Um, and I've been mocking. I have the third spot overall in my main money league that I won last year. So I've been mocking that, and Josh Allen goes in the second. Between the second and fifth, Josh Allen's gone, Mahomes is gone, and Justin Herbert's gone. Right.
Hmm.
Um, and even Joe Burrow sometimes, surprisingly, which that was kind
Yeah,
of random, but I was like,
yeah.
whatever, okay. Um, Now you can get Lamar Jackson in the end of the fourth round, sometimes the fifth round. If I see
Hmm.
Lamar Jackson in the fifth round, I'd draft him there. I think he's going to
Yeah,
be a top 3 fantasy quarterback this year. I think he's
yeah.
about to light the fucking shit up. Oops, I
The
cursed.
only
Oh well.
thing, oh, the
Um,
only thing that scares me is his health.
okay,
That's the
yeah,
only time.
which is fair, but I think if he stays healthy, he's top 3 this year. I really do
Yeah,
believe that's going to
absolutely,
happen.
absolutely.
So I wouldn't mind taking him in the fifth, but the mocks I've been doing, I just don't like the placement of players after that. So
Hmm.
it's kind of a toss up. I think it'll be an in the moment thing, and I'm more leaning towards just waiting than anything else. Now, let's say if Josh Allen would fall to the third round, I maybe
Yeah.
draft him in the third round, right? That's good value because I can get a top 5 running back at position number 3. Then I can get me a top 12 wide receiver, and then I can cover that with a top 3 quarterback, and I would feel really good about that. And then I don't wide receiver so deep that I don't mind going, let's say, like running back, wide receiver, quarterback, then go and running back again in the fourth round, and then double up on wide receiver for wide receiver 2 and flex, and
Mhm.
then grab a tight end in the sixth maybe. I would love to get Dalton Schultz in like the sixth round, but he's been going in the fifth mostly, so it's hard to
Yeah.
get him. I think he's going to be a top 5 tight end this year. He's somebody that I like.
Yeah.
Um, but for the most part, like I said, my consistency is just wait till the later rounds. Let those other people spend those picks, and then you reap the benefits by grabbing the wide receiver or running back that dropped a couple more spots to you.
And also, sometimes it's worth stashing for a injury or a trade. Sometimes I'll draft 3 running backs in a row, and
Yeah.
just have like a few, top level people on my bench,
Yeah.
and to see if somebody needs somebody. Um, but man, I've been stung with drafting great running backs the last 2 years. I have taken McCaffrey and Barkley the past few years, and
Oh
obviously that
man.
didn't work out.
So
Yeah.
I'm actually last year. I mean, you can't really listen to the episodes anymore, but I do still have them on file. I called it on the old fantasy ambush. I was like, I do not like Barkley. Do not draft Barkley. I think he's gonna have a bad year, and I called it. I called it. This year, I like Barkley. I hate
Mm.
to say it, I like him.
Yeah.
Now am I gonna spend a first round pick on him? No.
No, no.
But if I want to go running back, and Barkley's there in the second round, I'd draft him.
Yeah.
Now, I'd probably like him towards the back end of the second round because if I can
Mhm.
get a top 5 wide receiver, I'd rather grab them than Barkley. But,
Yeah.
if let's say I have like the number 2 or I have the number 3 pick, right? And I grab Austin Eckler and then I get to the 2-3 turn because I'm on that back end. And if Barkley's at the 2-3 turn, I have no problem drafting him because I can
Yeah.
get him and I can get a wide receiver that's around that same range anyway. And now I lock down my running backs because I got 2 starting ones. I got kind of a footnote wide receiver, and then I can spend the next couple picks getting more wide receivers who would be probably just as good.
Mm.
Like I said, wide receivers are have enough depth this year where I don't mind drafting them in the 4th, 5th, 6th round because I feel like they could still end up being top 24 anyway.
Mm.
So um
Yeah, I was gonna say, one thing I like doing is betting on young dual threat quarterbacks. Every year. Like last year, I did well because I got Hurts in like the
mhm,
9th or 10th round in most leagues. And so this year I'm focusing on Lance or Fields. And I think I'll be like look at like quarterbacks in bad situations, like, oh, they're maybe bad, but like they don't understand, like, well, in fantasy, like the position that Fields is in is actually probably pretty good because he's going to have to do a lot of scrambling. I mean,
yeah,
hopefully he stays healthy. Hopefully he stays
yeah.
healthy. But but he's going to have to be the guy on that offense.
Yeah. So
So
and what you do is when you look at someone like Justin Fields, you look at the rushing ability, and that's kind of what you want to look at. So let's say his passing is not great, but let's say he gets 36, 3,700 yards passing, maybe 22, 23 passing touchdowns. Not a lot, right? Not amazing. But if he goes out and gets you 800 rushing yards and 7 or 8 touchdowns, he might be a top 12 quarterback.
yeah, hmm
Just saying, those rushing yards
yeah,
and rushing touchdowns count for a lot. That's why
yeah,
Josh Allen is valued the way he's valued. That's why Jalen Hurts is going high, and like
hmm
he gets drafted pretty early because of his rushing ability,
yeah,
right? Same thing with Trey Lance is somebody who's getting drafted as a top 12 quarterback now, right
yeah,
now, because of
hmm
his rushing ability. And we've talked about it. I've seen flashes of great play from him, so we
hmm
know it's there. It's whether or not it's going to come out this year or next year
hmm
and people are willing to gamble on that. So, but what I normally find out is it's people who will wait late. They'll draft Trey Lance and then they'll go and grab Kirk Cousins or Derek Carr or
yep.
some of these guys
That's
who are not bad, not amazing. Though I do
yeah.
think I'm calling it right now. I think Derek Carr is going to crack the top
Carr,
12 this year.
I think so
I
too.
think
Yeah.
so because if you look at him last year, Derek Carr threw 4,700 yards last year and he just couldn't meet like the 30 touchdown mark. And what is Devontae Adams good at? Catching touchdowns. That's what
hmm
he's good at. He's good. You throw him the ball and he's gonna get up and get it. Right? Um, it might not be as prevalent as Aaron Rodgers, obviously, and the Packers, but I think with the addition of Adams, I can see Derek Carr throwing for 4,500 yards and 30 plus touchdowns. And if he
So
does that, he's a top 12 guy.
yeah. Because the odds were so crazy, I put $50 on him to win offensive player of the year or MVP.
Yeah.
That was a weird bet because I mean he's always been first of all, he's always been like super underrated. Like what he's had to go through in Las Vegas, Oakland. Like he's played well in circumstances, and
Yeah,
then now like you got a top, okay, a best receiver, a top 3 or 4 tight end. Hunter Renfro is the most underrated
he's
receiver
good, man.
in the
He's
league.
good.
He's
He is
so nice.
good. Yes.
Yeah, like is it insane to think that he could be the next Cooper Cup in terms of like having a crazy year all of a sudden? Like it's not insane, you
It's
know?
not.
Uh,
It's
uh,
not insane.
yeah,
And their defense isn't that bad. They're probably middle of the league. I'm not giving them top 10, but like if
no,
you told me that the Raiders had a top 15 defense, I'd be like, yeah, okay. They
that's
have a
fair. Yeah,
solid defense. It's not amazing, but
yeah.
it's solid.
Especially
So
the offensive line,
yeah,
is nice. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, I can see a world with Derek Carr as the top 12 guy. So if you're willing to couple Carr and Trey Lance and ride Derek Carr for the first couple weeks until Trey Lance shows out and then swap or
Mhm.
whatever you want to do, I'm by it. You know.
Honestly, that's
So
exactly my game plan every year. Is I pick a young rising star, and then I'll take a guy who I know can give me a solid 10 points every week.
yeah,
Like a Kirk Cousins, Carr. You know, I love me some uh, Tannehill in fantasy because he's always solid for like a
yeah. He
certain
had a
amount of
bad year
points.
last year, but
He did, yeah, up and
yeah,
down for some reason. And then now that they don't have AJ Brown, that's okay. But it's funny. He was actually better after Henry got hurt. He actually
yeah,
kind of stepped
yeah.
up after Henry got hurt.
Yeah, and
That
I
was
mean, I
weird.
think the Titans' defense is still going to be pretty good.
Yeah,
They're going to get Henry back. We'll see how he looks. That's kind of he had a major injury, so we'll see what happens. I mean, they don't have AJ Brown. I think Robert Woods is going to have a good year. I like
yeah.
Woods. He's kind of older, but he's a veteran wide receiver, and he's a good wide receiver. I don't know
Hmm.
how he's going to do as the number one, but he's going to see a lot of targets. So,
Yeah. And
I
they
I
and
mean,
they drafted a Burks
yeah.
from Arkansas.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I think Burks might take that number one job eventually, but he'll
yeah.
probably be running as a wide receiver too. He'll be the second
Hmm.
option. But they're gonna try to open up the field, so we'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
I like.
Uh,
I mean, Robert Woods will always have a special place in my heart. He won me a lot of money, so I
yeah.
played him as my captain in DraftKings when I won
Mhm.
100K. So like, thank you, Robert Woods. So, but he is good. So. Oh, all right. Any players you don't like? We kind of talked about players we like. Any players you don't like?
um, the whole Seattle Seahawks thing. No, I'm just kidding. Let's see here. I mean, for me, it's always about health. Like I just fear
Hmm.
injury because I've been burned so many times on. Like that's why I hate picking like top four in like anything because I
Yeah.
just feel like I've been burned so many times.
Uh-huh.
Um, so yeah, so Elijah Mitchell, like I wouldn't draft any Niners back that high.
Correct.
Yeah, just because it's a everybody might get some, but at the same time, is it crazy to think that Mitchell could have like a huge year? Like if he's healthy, he could have 1,400 yards.
Oh, if he plays
So
if he plays 17 games, he's probably like
yeah,
a top 10 running back, if not top
yeah,
5. So like it's
like
not a question of ability. It's the question
yeah,
of he got hurt 6 times last year and he's already hurt now in the preseason.
yeah,
Doesn't look good and it scares people
yeah,
away. So like
exactly.
I don't want anything to do with the 49ers backfield fantasy wise.
Mm,
And I don't want anything to
yeah,
do with the Dolphins backfield fantasy wise either, to be honest with you.
no,
And I don't want anything to do
yeah,
with the Patriots running backfield either.
no,
So,
yeah,
I wouldn't mind getting Damian Harris if he's like a 10th round pick,
yeah.
but like I'm not spending a fifth, sixth round pick on Damian Harris. I'm not
And
spending a seventh, eighth round pick on Ramondre Stevenson. It's just not gonna happen. So
there's a bunch of talk that he might be traded before the end
yeah,
of the camp. Yeah, so that's crazy. Like, that's so hard, kind of projecting because so many things could happen. That's why it's good to wait as long as possible for the
the draft.
until you draft.
Yeah.
Because some stuff. I remember a few years ago, I drafted Jared McKinnon in the second round because like okay, the Niners paid him a whole bunch of money.
Yep.
Like he
Yep.
was going to be the whole offense, and
Yep.
he got hurt
Nope.
the day before the season started. It was on
Yeah.
a Friday, and I was like, oh man.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, look at
you know,
Cam Akers last year. Look at J.K. Dobbins
yeah,
last year. I mean,
yeah,
I've seen, it sucks. I knew some people that drafted both of them, and they didn't have
hmm
either of them. That sucks. That's
yeah.
pretty awful.
Something that helped me learn some backup plans was the COVID season.
Uh-huh.
Like COVID season was so bad where every other week a player was out because of COVID that you had to learn how to like have backup plans for basically every single position
Oh,
about.
definitely.
So like yeah, so like now, I draft with a much better sense than like, okay, I want like something that I like doing is, for example, with the 49ers, if I was in a bind, I would draft Mitchell and I would draft Jeff Wilson Jr. because I like having the I forget what I saw some fantasy expert talking about it, but like when you draft two players at the same position on the same team, it's so
A handcuff
just in
strategy.
case. Yes, yeah, exactly, yeah, yeah. And so I did that last year with the Niners, and so it works sometimes. I was gonna ask you, is there one position that maybe you feel people don't value enough in points terms, like the defense or like a kicker? Like what position might score better?
I think. See, I know some leagues get rid of their defense and their kickers. I think kicker is a good way to get like a solid 7, 8 points added onto your tally, right? If you have a top three kicker, you can look at double digits almost every week, and I've seen it
Yeah,
happen. I've had
mhm.
kickers win me games, so like
Yeah,
I
definitely.
I've had a kicker score 19 points to win me a game. Like it's
hmm
ridiculous. Um,
Yeah,
but other than that, I mean, um, one thing if you're in a PPR league. I know tight ends are hard, but don't be scared to have more than one tight end or
hmm
to get one on your bench. And also don't be scared to flex them out if it's a good matchup.
yeah,
You know,
yep,
I'm in. Well, I think you're in that league too, aren't you? Are you in the Justin Terrell keeper league? So like that's a
yep.
16 team league. It's a
hmm
16 team league with 6 keepers. And we have like a 16-man roster. So like
Yeah,
I think last year I probably had like 3 or 4 tight ends on that team, and I would play them regularly. Because they would, so you know, any tight end after like tight end five, it's basically like a touchdown or bust, but you don't know when one's gonna pop
yeah,
off. Um,
hmm
and if you're in a bind, don't be scared. In 12-team leagues and 10 teams leagues, it's not much
yeah,
of a thing. You're still gonna lean more towards wide receiver, which I probably would too, but it doesn't hurt to have a second tight end if you think they have high upset, like a Cole Kmet, you know,
yeah.
or a lot of people like Fryermuth.
hmm
But I
hmm
mean, he's still in the back end in the drafts. Even like David Njoku, someone who
hmm
has the potential but just hasn't had the chance yet.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean,
You know who's nice? The tight end for the Rams, Higbee.
yeah,
Higbee.
Higbee's
Yeah,
nice, yeah.
yeah,
So I mean, and he could possibly see some work. It's hard to
yeah.
tell. So who did the Buccaneers pick up? They picked up a tight end, didn't they?
Oh, the old guy, Randolph.
Oh, Kyle Rudolph.
Mm.
Rudolph.
Oh, Rudolph. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Look, I don't know if he's gonna be good, but he was a solid guy on the Vikings.
yeah.
He might be someone to look out
Well,
for.
so
It's possible.
he fits that offensively with Tom Brady, where he could just sit in the red zone and get some touchdowns.
Yeah,
He can fulfill the Gronkowski role of
yeah,
just being in the right spot. Because
yeah,
Brady
yeah. Which
loves his tight ends,
he might not see a lot of yards, but like I could see him
but
getting
touchdowns. Yeah,
touchdowns, a lot of touchdowns. He could be somebody who gets 700 yards, but like 9, 10 touchdowns. That's definitely possible.
I
Uh,
was thinking. Speaking of future sponsors, man, the sleeper app to me is like revolutionary,
So
like in
I
fantasy
love it.
football.
I love it.
Yeah,
I used to be I used to use ESPN a lot, and
yeah,
then
same. Yeah,
I don't like the NFL one. Um, I don't care for Yahoo. I only use it for the one league.
yeah,
But Sleeper, I love Sleeper. So that'd
I
be
love it.
they're more than welcome to sponsor us.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, so most of my leagues are actually on Sleeper now. So I like that. Um,
Same.
let's see any other players I'm kind of staying away from.
Yeah, I
Just
mean,
ADP
um,
wise.
yeah,
Let's
if
see.
we're talking about big names, I'm a bit worried about DK Metcalf. With
I think I'm more
in.
worried about Lockett, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
I think DK Metcalf is going to see a lot of targets. Um, I don't blame you though. Like I like DK Metcalf as like a wide
Hmm.
receiver too.
Hmm.
I think he can get 1,000 yards. I think he can get 7 to 10 touchdowns. Like I think that's
Okay.
a fair possibility, regardless of whether it's Drew Lock or Geno Smith throwing to him.
Hmm.
Um, they're gonna throw the ball. They have to.
Yeah.
They can't just run the ball. As much as Pete
Yeah.
Carroll wants, they're gonna throw it. It might only be 20 times a game, but somebody's got to get those targets.
Yeah.
And the two somebody's that are gonna get those targets are gonna be DK and Lockett. And you'll see some to the tight end, you'll see some to the running backs. But like I could see DK getting 8 to 10 targets a game, Lockett getting 8 to 10 targets a game, both.
Yeah.
Right. The reason I say I like DK is because he's just bigger, man. He's more
Yeah.
athletic. I think you can trust him more to throw to, especially if they do get to the red zone.
Hmm.
Um, Lockett was very much a boom player
Yeah.
with Russell Wilson. It was he's going to hit you for 3 catches, but it's going to be for like 66 yards and a touchdown or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know how well that's going to translate to someone who can't throw it deep very well.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, they could put Lockett as a PPR guy, like as a
Yeah.
slot guy, where he gets 6 or 7 catches, and it might only be for 60 or 70 yards.
Yeah.
We'll see what they do with it. But I
Uh,
don't blame you. I'm definitely not drafting either one of those
in the first
as
round.
as a wide receiver one. Well, definitely not in the
Yeah.
first round, but like if I could get DK Metcalf as like a flex wide receiver, I'd be
That'd be
happy.
great. Yeah.
I'd
Oh
love
yeah. Yeah.
that. I feel like I'm
Easy.
winning
Yeah.
if I do that. Now,
Yeah.
if I get him as a wide receiver too, I kind of feel like okay, I can
Okay.
work with
Yeah.
this. Like I'm
Yeah.
fine with it. It's not the greatest, but it's not the worst either. And I think
Yeah.
that's kind of where DK falls, which is usually around like the fourth round,
Yeah.
fourth, fifth round. Like if I can get DK
Yeah.
Metcalf in the fifth round, I'm probably happy. I'm happy
Yeah.
with that. Because his upside, there's no question that he's probably one of the best wide receivers in the league talent wise. He just has
Yeah.
a bad quarterback.
Yeah.
So, um, you know, in redraft leagues, sure, draft him fourth, fifth round. Dynasty, he has a little more value to me because he's young. Dude's like
Yeah.
what 22,
Yeah.
20. I mean,
Yeah. Super young.
he's still got 8 years left. Like I'm not,
Mhm.
we'll see what happens. There's someone to keep an eye on. I also think that those could be sleeper candidates. You know what I'm saying? I
Mhm.
think DK Metcalf could be a sleeper candidate. I think he's someone who
Yeah.
could be a top 12 wide receiver. You
Yeah.
know,
Like I've
so
been seeing that some people kind of let go of players too fast. Like I've been seeing Hopkins drop to like the ninth round just because he's suspended the first 6 games. Like I mean,
yeah, for six
I still
games.
think he's worth. Yeah, he's still worth like a fifth or sixth round pick, and you could just stash him for that valuable time. Um, but yeah, what was I
Hmm.
gonna say? Um, yeah, oh yeah. I was also just like thinking about anybody else that like. Oh, that's what I'm saying is the news happened earlier today that Kenneth Walker has a sports hernia,
Yeah,
so he might miss the first few weeks of the season.
yeah.
So that's a big hit because I know he was going to be a guy,
Oh yeah,
in
yeah. Well, they
Seattle. Yeah,
they really loved him, so now it's
yeah.
gonna fall back on someone else. I mean, I don't.
Back on Penny
Yeah,
again.
Yeah,
Penny.
for now until he gets hurt again.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
and see, and that's where I kind of fall into. Okay, what happens if they don't have Walker? What if it happens if they don't have Penny? They're gonna run the ball with somebody
They
else, but they're gonna start passing the ball.
they
They're gonna have
they
to
have to throw it.
if they
Yeah,
want to win games. Like so, that's where I'm saying like don't be scared to draft DK Metcalf or even Tyler Lockett.
yeah.
Just try to get them at values to where if they
It's
end up not being great, it doesn't kill you. You know.
it's funny.
So
I wish that the Seattle had a bit more um freedom. I mean, imagine using the Metcalf in the, the Debo role
yeah,
and him in the backfield or something like that.
yeah,
Like I
yeah,
think he could be super valuable in that way. But Seattle's very vanilla with how they use their receivers. But
yeah.
yeah,
Well,
that's
their whole offensive philosophy is kind of outdated. So
yeah,
like obviously Steve Carroll gets his way. It's like, bro, you want to run the ball, you want to play defense, and that's great. You got to be able to pass. Like
yeah.
the fact that y'all were willing to let Russell Wilson go is one of the dumbest things. Whatever.
Thank the
I,
Lord.
I'm happy for Russell Wilson.
Yeah,
I really love Russell Wilson. He's
yeah,
one of my favorite players. He's a good guy. I like him as a quarterback. All those things, and I'm happy to see the Broncos get him. Like that's great. I like seeing new teams do
yeah,
well, not necessarily new teams, but teams that were struggling now have a chance, stuff like that.
yeah,
Um, but man, Seattle, I don't know what they're doing. I hope it works for them, but I have a feeling that it's not gonna. If they make 500, which you can't even do that anymore. But
yeah.
if
But
they win half
somewhere
their
around
if they
there.
win half their games, I'll be surprised.
Yeah,
That's kind of how I
definitely.
feel
I
about it right
think
now.
I think that they're tanking without showing that they're tanking. And
Yeah.
like, there's because I mean,
Well, look, man, next year's draft is going to have a lot of prominent
loaded,
players. A
yeah, yeah,
lot of prominent players.
loaded. So yeah,
So,
if they can get a top 3, 5 pick,
yeah.
they're gonna be back quick. Because like the roster isn't actually that bad.
Well,
It's
that's
just the
they need some
quarterback. Yeah,
pieces. They need some pieces.
yeah,
Well, it's not just quarterback. Defensively, they still need some pieces.
yeah.
Um, we'll see what happens. I wouldn't be surprised if Lockett or Metcalf gets traded next year. I wouldn't be surprised because if you could
Hmm.
trade him for a first round pick with a stacked draft class,
Yeah.
I could definitely see them doing that.
Mhm.
Like, well, let's just go all in. Let's see what we
Yeah.
can get. So um, but anyway, I think that's a good stopping point for tonight,
All right.
listeners. We did our introductions. We're gonna try to get out at least an episode a week, maybe two. I'm gonna try to shoot for
Right.
two, but um, this is Fantasy Ambush. I'm Trevor.
And I'm Paul.
All right. Y'all have a good night.